Hello. Today, I would like to talk about servant leadership. Servant leadership truly is an extraordinary approach to leadership that runs counter to common sense and can seem challenging. Servant leadership argues that a person can be a leader and a servant at the same time. Servant leaders are ethical leaders who lead in ways that serve the greater good of the organization, community, and society. A servant leader treats followers the way they want to be treated because they listen, empathize with, and want to care about the personal well-being of followers. They are aware of the physical, social, and political environments they and the followers are in and understand themselves and their impact on them. A servant leader provides a clear sense of goals and directions and offers responses to organizational problems in creative ways. A servant leader can predict the future by assessing the current situations and what has happened in the past so they can act on that understanding and prevent potential failures. A servant leader carefully manages their followers and organization and holds their organization in trust for the greater good of society. Finally, a servant leader builds a community of individuals with shared interests and pursuits with a sense of togetherness. It is the duty of a servant leader to create a place where people feel safe, secure, and accepted, where they can freely express and share their ideas with others. While all this may sound exceedingly difficult and even absurd, servant leadership should be normal to us as Christian leaders when we ponder Christ's life. Jesus was a servant leader who left a distinct legacy through his servant leadership. Like Jesus, we can strive to be servant leaders at our workplace and leave a legacy where we can help followers to understand and become servant leaders, which actually works contrary to the usual legacy of today's workplace, where people thrive in toxic culture, competitive working environment, and under delusional vision that stem from self-interest, greed, and incompetence. Now, the question is, how are we as Christian leaders to practice servant leadership in our workplace? We would, as servant leaders, put the needs of others before our desires and act as servants first. Many of us overlook this idea today where leadership equates with power and authority in most of the workplace. However, Christ is the ultimate example of genuine leadership, and his life and teachings demonstrate how important it is to lead with love, compassion, and a servant's heart. Jesus demonstrated his servant leadership with three examples. First, in John 13:14-15, Jesus exemplified servant leadership by washing his disciples' feet. Now, during his time, it typically was the job of the lowest servant in the household and was culturally taboo to touch such an unclean part of the body. Although Jesus was God incarnate, he humbled himself to serve his disciples to that extent. This act of lowly service showed his humility and love for his followers. Moreover, he not only washed his disciples' feet, but urged them to wash one another's feet, as he has done for them. Second, Jesus taught about the importance of serving others. He not only believed in servant leadership, but practiced it himself. In Mark 10:45, he said that he did not come to be served, but to serve others and give his life as a ransom for us. From this, we learn that by putting the common good of others first, we can put our desires second. Philippians 2:3-4 teaches that we are to not do anything out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but rather in humility value others above ourselves, not looking to our own interests, but each of us in the interests of others. Third, Jesus demonstrated servant leadership through his compassion for others. He showed care and concern for the sick, oppressed, or rejected. Compassion means being willing to listen, care for, and help those in need. Matthew 9:36 says that when he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. This compassion led him to heal the sick, feed the hungry, and care for the outcasts of society. So, like Jesus, we can show kindness and compassion to people in need in our workplace by serving them with his love. Finally, with these examples in mind, we can strive to become servant leaders by empowering others around us. By encouraging and supporting our colleagues and our followers to freely use their gifts and talents, we can truly make a difference in the workplace. As servant leaders, we can help others grow, learn, and succeed. We can even take a step back to allow others to take the lead when necessary. While this level of discernment requires a certain level of humility, it creates a culture of collaboration, trust, and respect in the workplace. Observing, experiencing, and applying servant leadership has been my biggest hunger in the workplace. For the last 15 plus years working in various fields, I have yet to experience and confess that I have worked under a leader that I would like to emulate and consider a role model. However, God is divulging to me through this class that if I wait for the perfect servant leadership example so that I can begin to be a servant leader, I'll never start. Instead of selfishly wanting to be served, trained, and fostered, God is waiting for me ever patiently and gently to take the initiative to exit from my comfort zone, to have the true willingness to be a servant first, just as Jesus was a servant first before he was served. As I pick up my cross to follow him in obedience to be a servant leader, no matter how steep the path may be, how heavy the burden may feel, and how lonely I may feel, Jesus is my guide, role model, and leader who will carry me through since he has done so himself with his own life and actions. May God always remind and inspire us that there is no greater form of love or joy than to serve.